Good morning, Dr. Reams. I didn't really expect to be in front of the video camera. I was going to put my PowerPoint up, but I can't figure out how to do that, so I'm going to speak to the different points in the PowerPoint and then send it to you, as this is my first video production on YouTube. Moving along to keep it underneath the limitations there of time, I'm going to be talking about scanning the environment, and I think this is a valuable piece that we talked about or learned about this semester. Scanning the environment seems to be something that we can really improve upon and utilize to be able to really inform the decision making in the district. I think we have done some of this piece traditionally in the past, but to really do an in-depth study and look at the environment and scanning the environment, we haven't done as deeply or as broadly as we need to. That was something I kept running through in the literature that I read about scanning the environment, was the word widening, wider in scope and more peripheral. And I think that's very important, because we have been able to traditionally get data, as Poole told us in his 1991 article. We traditionally collect data, but environmental scanning is wider in scope, and I think that's important to stay focused on, is that we're not doing the traditional things where we just gather a certain amount of focused data to inform us. We're trying to get our finger on the pulse of really what's happening and stay abreast of what's happening, not only inside the organization with an internal scan, but on the outside with an external scan. Marx in our book says the benefit of environmental scanning is foresight, gives us increased power to shape our futures, even in the most turbulent of times. I think that is a great power to have, to be able to shape our future. And if we know what we're dealing with, then we can more effectively inform decision making and steer our organization in the direction that it needs to go to achieve the things that we're here to achieve as a school system. He also speaks to that widening our perspective. He says scanning can improve our peripheral vision. I think that is just tremendously important, in that sometimes we focus on things, but if we collectively look at those things and brainstorm and think together and get information from different sources, then sometimes that opens up a whole different view, a whole different lens of looking at the situation that we've not even thought of before, that we've never looked at that way. So that widening is very important. And we have the need for the continual reassessing of that. That was something that Prashadis said in 1996. That organizations must constantly change and adapt to the needs of the larger society change, stay in step with the changing environment. How do we do that? We can do an external scan and an internal scan. When you're externally scanning, you're scanning what's going on in the environment in which your organization exists, socially, politically, technologically, environmentally, and what other trends might be going on. You're looking to identify opportunities and threats to your organization. You're looking to learn the views of leading scholars. In other words, what do experts say about best practices and what's going on and what's happening in the world around us. You're evaluating emerging trends and determining when these will become commonplace. This speaks to what I think it speaks to what I was mentioning earlier about keeping our finger on the pulse of the situation. We are constantly needing to monitor what situation we're in, what's changing about that, what's emerging, what's coming on the forefront, and is that rapidly changing or is it slowly changing, and then make predictions about when we think we'll have to full-on deal with that, or when that will become commonplace, and it'll be something that we deal with on a continual basis. If people are worried, the last two bullets in this PowerPoint says, just speaking to the external scan, we need to look at the demographics of the community and determine the viewpoints and attitudes of the community. And this piece is very important. If people are worried about basic needs in their life, like food and water and shelter and those sorts of things, I don't know how concerned they are about what we got going on down at the school system. If they could look at the bigger picture, and we can help them to see that education is very valuable and will bridge the gap between their living situation and their needs and what's going to be available in the future and what the quality of life would be in the future, and we can get them to buy in that education is the conduit for that, then we've done a good day's work. But most of the time, I feel like if people are worried about meeting their basic needs, then it's hard for them to fully worry about or be concerned or in tune to what we've got going on down the school district. The other part of the scan is the internal scan, which, as it sounds, what is happening inside the organization. And we have traditionally looked at some of this data in test scores, and we've looked at the trends and things probably in a more informal way. But the kind of scan that we need to do, the internal scan we need to do, is more deep in scope. It's wider in peripheral scan. We need to go back and look at the history of the school, the culture of the school, how do things normally work in the school, or I should probably say usually work in the school, and what is our school strong in, what's its story, what have we done in the past that's worked and what has not worked, and why have we done it that way, and all those kinds of things. We need to look at the stakeholders, who all has an interest in what we got going on now at the school. The financial health, we have to pay the bills, and we have to be good stewards of the finances and make sure that we're getting the most program for our money. We need to look at possible competition. That means charter schools or homeschooling, or what have we got to offer that people can't find somewhere else, or can't do better somewhere else. We've got to review what programs and our vision and mission statement, and our communications. In other words, we got to look at what we got going on at the school. What do we have to offer people? And then we kind of got to sell ourselves a lot of times. We got to put that positively out there, and put a positive spin and a positive light on it for the community. We got to look at continuous improvement data. Are we being accountable? Are we meeting accountability? We've got to look at strengths and weaknesses and the root causes of those. In other words, what are we doing well? What are we not doing so well? And what is lying underneath that? What causes us to be able to do those things that way? And then the last piece is flexibility for change. We've got to be willing and open-minded to try something different, a new way, because if we keep doing the same things the same way, then we're going to get the same results. And somebody defined that as, I think it was John Dewey said that was a definition of insanity, to keep doing the same things and getting the same results over and over. If you won't change, you're going to have to do things a different way and be willing to do that. Alright, I'm going to speak just briefly and quickly about conducting the scan, and there's different ways that we looked at to do this in our text and in video this semester. Polling and interviewing was mentioned, and focus groups and brainstorming. All those are wonderful methods. I think brainstorming is so important because, again, of broadening your viewpoints and being able to bring a collectiveness to the table, in that some people may think of things that you've never thought of. You may have past experiences that could add to the information that they wouldn't have had, and so that brainstorming is so valuable in coming up with with what's emerging, what's the emerging trends happening in your district, in your environment. Specifically, the book addressed some different methods for scanning the environment. The PEST, P-E-S-T, standing for political, economic, social, and technological trends. The STEEP-V, which is those same ones, but you added the environmental and the values piece. The STEEPED, which is the S-T-E-E-P-E-D, and it drops back out the values piece, but adds also educational and demographic information. All those very, very important. It spoke about the root cause and defining moments, which speaks to that I mentioned a minute ago about knowing what's going on, the underlying reason. We know what we can see and we can deal with that, but sometimes we have to deal with where's that coming from, what's underneath the surface. And so that root cause and defining moment is a way of looking at that piece. They also mentioned the SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I think of this as a more broad overview. And then the Delphi process, which was is a process of sending out questionnaires to an expert panel, and they individually and anonymously address issues through that series of questionnaires. All those are very, very good methods and vital pieces to a good environmental scan. For the sake of time, don't want to run over because I've done this video before, and if you go over 15, it deletes it. So I want to stay underneath my 15 minutes and say that those are the key pieces, and there are many applications once you do the scan for informing decision making within the schools, and I think that's very, very important. Poole in 1991 article says educators can use environmental scanning techniques to anticipate social, economic, political, and technological changes that will affect our schools. And Dulles in 2004 says scanning, when done correctly, drives decision making. So I thank you for this class. I've enjoyed it and enjoyed learning about the environmental scan as well as some many other topics this semester, and I hope this is at least viewable, and I will send the PowerPoint along to accompany it. Thank you.